All right, so we're going to talk quickly about the flash, which is a way that Rails has of displaying some information on the screen quickly. So let's play with that a little bit. So when we post this information on this form, where does it go? So it goes back to the Contact Us path, right? So that's our Form 4. We're going to post back to this page. And that is, if I can just use my little clicker here, this is the page that does that, right? So instead of having an error message like we had before, we can use this flash method that's built into Rails. So let's go look at that in the API. And we'll look up flash. And all that flash is a hash. So you knew you'd have to have hashes again, that stores a string in a key. So when I say flash of notice, it says store that string into that key. All right, so I'm setting some value, typically some message to the user, and it puts it into the flash. All right, that's all it is from that side.
So it's kind of like messagebox.show.
Yeah, yeah.
JavaScript.
There you go. So instead of having this, I'm going to set my flash sub error equals must enter your name. All right? So then in our code, we need some way of displaying that information. And we can say, maybe we have a div up here. Maybe we have a command that says, if there's something in my flash in the error key, then I want to display that. So how would I display what's in that key? Flash sub dot error. That gets the value out of the hash, right? So let's run my code here. See if we can get this to work. And I'm sure my Google is not right. My settings are probably bad. It is. Getting good at that.
Google before you did it.
Okay, there's my beautiful calendar. And then it was Contact Us. So here's the information, and if I try to ask the question, I can't get that error because I've used that required, which I told you not to use, right? So let's take that out. Required equals true. Take this out. And reload the page. Probably shouldn't use that one. All right. So the the problem with Flash is that it. Let me get back to my code, my controller. It sets it for the page after the page that I'm going to display right now. So it's the second page. The flash.now is the hash that's going to display on this page. So it's slightly different. So I think this will work here. Oh, here it is. Must enter your name. No. No. So but this is no longer being set, so there's nothing here. I'll prove this to you. Obviously, you don't believe me, so we'll take that out. Reload, re-ask the question. See? So ideally, we might do something like a div around this, right, with a class of an error so that we can highlight it and make it red, right? Oops. And we close our div. And I think I have an error, don't I, in my assets? Go look at my style sheets. I know, it depends. If I did, I put it. No. So I need an error class. And we'll just say my text color is going to be red. All right. So now let's reload this. Isn't that better? There we go. Had to control refresh to get the style sheets loaded again. So now I've got my must enter your name. So I can add things to that flash and put multiple messages if I wanted to in there for each of those errors, which is why I don't want you to use the required. You can't guarantee that somebody can bypass that, and I can't test that you've actually done it. So take out required if you're going to submit this file, please. Well, I can just add multiple strings to the same flash error. Just add another, concatenate a string to it, something like that. Sure you can. Well, when you put in HTML, what do you have to do to that string? HTML safe, right. I have to tell it that it's HTML safe, and then it will print it as valid information. All right, so that's basically the flash. The code that will get generated for us automatically has this built into it as well. So once we build our own controller, you'll have this. All right, any questions on the flash? Flash. All right. Let's go back now. We've done the product. We've done some model information. Remember, I did this. I generated me a model called people, and we played around with that. Yesterday, I had trouble with it erroring out on a nil. The problem was I had first name plus space plus last name. So this was the problem. First name was nil, and I couldn't do a plus on a nil. So all I did was put it in an interpolated string instead, which is safer. And now that ended my error that I had. So to prove it to you, I can just go to people/index, and I get everything is fine. So it was a last name. Steve didn't have a last name in my database. I scared everybody else. All right, let's build something that is similar to your products, but I'm not going to do the products. I jumped the gun and did that for you. So we're going to build, what I'm going to lecture on, I'm going to build a movies instead. We'll keep track of some movies. So we can use, now that we understand the model a little bit and the MVC, I'm going to go ahead and run this generator. And we're going to run a scaffolding. We talked about that last week, where that is the stuff around the building that we're going to build. And we need to give it the name. Well, we have to run this scaffold generator first. Then we get the model name that we want. So I'm going to call mine movie. And then the field and types that I want. So I need the name is going to be a string. I might have the director as a string. What else might I need for that? A description. And that's more than a string. That's going to be a text box, right? Something bigger than that. Maybe the year that it was produced. And we'll store that as an integer. What else do I need for my movie? Rating, we'll do rating later. We'll add it. We'll add the rating later. Okay, the time, length. Length, that sounds good. So length as a decimal, just to be something different. And then, what was the last one? Somebody had? Format. Okay, format. So format might be, what, a string, right? All right, so like HD or SD or 8 millimeter or something, right? Okay, VHS, I don't know. So I go ahead and click OK. That runs the Rails generator, which is all written in Ruby, and it's going to write Ruby code. So this is Ruby code writing Ruby code. Isn't that great? That's like incest. Not quite what I was thinking, but the Terminator, remember the code that got artificially intelligent in the Terminator? Skynet, there you go. That's like Skynet here. You don't think that works, huh? All right, so let's get rid of my other files here. These are the files that it created for me, the main ones. So I have my model, which doesn't have anything in it. I have but it inherits from the active records module, all of its properties. I've got my controller that generated 7 different actions for me: an index, a show, a new, an edit, a create, an update, a destroy, and then some private callbacks down here that we'll talk about later. All right, so, and then we have this migration file that actually describes the SQL table that I'm going to have in my database. So I'm going to have a new table called movies. Remember, when I selected it, I created a new movie model, and the model is called singular movie. But Rails knows the plurality of words, and so it will modify and create the tables as it sees fit. It likes, if you're referencing an entire table, it should be called movies. If you're referencing a record, it should be called movie, right? A single record. So this is all the data, the name of the column, and the type of the data it is. So we've got all these down here. And it added the timestamps, which is when it was created and when it was modified for us. So what do we have to do to actually execute this code? Migrate. All right, so we do a DB migration. I say run. And it created my table for me automatically, and it stored this migration in the migration file. So now I have one for my people, and I have one for my movies. So given this, I can, if I deleted my database for some reason, I could recreate the database based on these two files. It would recreate the tables anyway, not the data inside of it, but the tables.
I understand what the movies RV is. What's the people one?
That was the one we did yesterday.
Oh, that's leftover stuff.
Leftover stuff from yesterday, right? Yep. Leftover junk. All right, so we're done with the migration for now. Let's go and actually run this. It also created the routing file. So let's look at that. It created a new line called resources:movies. So for the movies table, I want all of the CRUD associated with that. So if we do that rake task to do the routes, we can see all of the paths that it gives us for this table. It gives us all of the CRUD necessary for my movies. So all of these were created with that one line of code. This resources movies created all of these 8 different paths for us. Okay? And it tells us these are all in the movies controller, and these are the actions in those controllers that these paths go to. All right, so let's go. Yep.
Maybe this is out of scope.
Probably.
In the create movies class, sometimes the database, your tables have to have other parameters.
Uh-huh.
Character limits, whatever.
Right.
Would you designate that from within that class
Before you migrate.
before you migrate?
So if for instance, I wanted to change the decimal to have a different scale, and precision, then I could add things like that to my table before I migrate.
Can you make certain fields required?
Like if you wanted to make a unique key.
Yes, unique keys and things like that are automatically are done in this as well. The ID is automatically the unique key, auto increment, not null ID. That's going to be given to us automatically when we look at our product. I mean our movie.
But as a primary key.
Yeah, if you wanted a different, that's the primary key. The ID is. If you wanted a different name to be indexed, like name, then you could add the index in here. Right. Little out of our scope right here, but. Yep, no problem. So I don't want to do this right now, but. So let's go look at, when we go to /movies, what action is being executed here? Index, very good. So if you look at our routes, /movies gives us the movies controller and the index action. So the index action, if I go look at that in my controller, all it says is go out to my table called movie, my movie table, and get me all of the records that are in that. And that returns what type of data? An array of objects, of movie objects, right? So a single array of movie objects. So one movie object per record in my database, right? So then my index method, the view for that is going to display a table with all the names of my headers, and it got all of this. This was all generated for me based on the names that I created and in the order that I created them. Notice that my name and director and description, they're in that order that I put when I generated the scaffolding. Obviously, I can just move these around. This is just HTML, but it's nicer to name them the way it saves work, right? Then I'm going to loop through my array of movies to get a single movie, and that I'm going to print out some attributes of those movie records. All right? Now, what I'm seeing here, though, is nothing. All I see is the header. And there's no table here because there are no records in my database. So when I click New Movie, what action is that going to go to? based on the URL here, what do you think it's going to go to? New. All right, so let's go back to my controller and look at the new method. See how it also put a comment about what the path is? So when I click on that, it's going to go to this method first. It's going to go and create a new movie object and store it in my instance variable called movie. Now the new method on a movie without any parameters returns me a blank object. It just has nothing assigned to any of the properties that I have in there. All right? But it's used by Rails in the new action. This new HTML is going to render a form. And where is this form found? Remember our rendering? It's in the views, okay. Movies, underscore form. Because it's a partial, we're rendering the form. It's got an underscore in the name, but not when we reference it. So this is the code for displaying a blank form based on that instance variable called movie. And so it lets us name all of the fields that I want. It puts labels next to each one of them. Depending on what it is, it changed my year into a number field. Notice that? It changed my description into a text area instead of a text field. So, and everything else is just a text field. All right? Yeah, somebody had a question here.
I was just wondering, I didn't see the top of the controller, if all of those things are parameters for the entire class.
This stuff?
Yeah, okay, now.
We'll
I
get-
didn't see.
We'll get to that in a minute.
How the create didn't have any parameters, if it was required that you had to enter every one of those.
So that's coming. So first of all, it goes to the new, and then in the form, this is going to go to the path for create. Okay, it's going to build the create path in here, which goes to what? Our create is going to go to a posting of /movies. And it's going to post all of the data from this form into the controller, and it's going to go to this create method. And from that, it gets all this data from the forms and calls the new again, but now it has form information, and it will assign all those values to the right places. It assigns the name to the name and the description to the description, etc.
So movie params is just an
Well,
array, basically, of the parameters.
yeah. What that is, actually, and this is new in Rails 4, so bear with me. The movie params is a method inside of the controller. If we look down here, movie params is just a method. So what that does is it calls all of this params and gets the data from the params hash. All right, this is,
You could add to the permit line right there.
yeah.
if you wanted.
If I wanted to add another field or something like that, I would do that here. So let's just run through that, and then we'll play with this a little bit. So if I hit new movie, it goes to the new action. Come on. Gotta be kidding me. Drives me nuts.
Longer and longer now. Maybe they have it, if Tom did it, he set it up to go with what you're teaching or something.
Yeah, something
If
like
you're
that.
recording a lot, do it at this time. If you're not recording, don't do it.
So this gives me, that went through the new action, which sets up this form from the partial, and it's all blank, and I can type in like Walking Dead, and I don't know who I don't know who directed it. It's about zombies. And the year, I can use these numbers. I could say it was 2008 or something like that. They're 45 minutes long, and it's in HD. And so when I create the movie now, it's going to go and post back to this /movies, back to the create method here. And it's going to create a new movie in my database. Okay, this is like what we did in the console yesterday. So I say create movie, and it creates it, and depending on whether it saved it or not, it checks to see, did the movie save correctly? This will return a true or false. Remember we did that in the console? We said people.save. It saved the data to the database. If it saved correctly, then we're going to redirect to the movie and passing this notice back to the view. And that notice is like the flash. That's a flash notice. And that comes in here. Movie was successfully created. All right, so in this, the action is show. So the next thing after posting, we want to show that that was created. So we come back up here to the show. And it doesn't do anything except display the movie information here. And notice how that notice comes in from the notice here. That's the notice that gets displayed at the top, if there is such a thing. And then it just displays all of the information in a bunch of paragraphs down the page. Just like that. And then it's got 2 links to go back and edit it, or go back to the back. And back goes back to the index page. And now we've got 1 record being displayed on the screen. Isn't that great?
Although kind of funny looking.
Funny looking, yeah. Because it's trying to, this is all fitting into a table. See the table there? All right, we'll continue on with this Thursday.